Hello and welcome to the 1000 PS YouTube channel. My name is Sebastian Wolter and I am here in Italy, in Faenza to be precise, attending the media launch of the Ducati Desmo450 MX. This is the very first motocross bike to come out of Ducati, so stay tuned for the video and get excited. Ducati decided in the year 2021 to enter the world of motocross. The first engine was fired up in the year 2023. By summer of the same year, there was a fully rideable prototype, which was then used for testing. And by spring 2024, the first race had already been contested, the Italian Championship. It was a mud race, and Ducati managed to take its very first win straight away. With that, they were already on the leaderboard. In the year 2025, they stepped into the Motocross World Championship MXGP with their factory team, with Jeremy Seewer Mattia Guadagnini as riders. They immediately pulled off several hole shots. In other words, they led the race starts. So far, there have been 4. Jeremy Seewer has already made it onto the overall podium twice, proving that Ducati has indeed built a truly competitive motorcycle. Now, many will say, all right, that is a factory bike. But what about the production version? Let us start from the beginning. When Ducati announced they were entering the motocross market and brought on board Antonio Cairoli, 9-time world champion, as an advisor and test rider, many people were left wondering why. After all, the motocross market is not exactly huge. And why are they launching a 450 cubic centimeter model when the market for 250 cubic centimeter four-strokes is much larger? But then again, Ducati would not be Ducati otherwise. Ducati said, all right, we want to enter the motocross market in order to expand our target audience and attract new riders to the brand. And motocross is just the beginning. Enduro and supermoto models are also being discussed or are already in the planning stages. A 250 cubic centimeter four-stroke will also be coming. But Ducati said, we want to start where the best are, and that is the Motocross World Championship, MXGP. We want to show straight away what we are capable of. And that was another reason why they kicked off the project. They love a challenge and simply want to prove what they can do. And the third point is, of course, the racing DNA that is embedded in the brand and the passion that motorsport represents. And yes, they can demonstrate that perfectly through their racing efforts. Moreover, Ducati's motto is, we sell what we race, so we sell what we ride ourselves. And up to the French MXGP, the factory riders were actually riding with production engines. And the accessories too, like triple clamps, alternative wheel sets, and exhaust systems, will now be available for all Ducati customers as part of the accessories range. The only exception is the factory suspension used by the works riders. But apart from that, you can pretty much buy everything you need to reach the MXGP podium. Ducati's standout feature, of course, is the Desmo concept, known from MotoGP and the World Superbike Championship. For those who do not know what that is, it refers to the system used to actuate the valves. Normally, there is a camshaft that opens the valve and a spring that closes it again. But with Ducati's Desmo system, both the opening and closing are handled mechanically via camshafts. That means it is fully mechanical, allowing significantly higher revs. At low revs, the system also has less friction. As a result, the engine is meant to feel freer and lighter. And yes, with a 450, you can really rev high, so you are likely to get even more power out of it. When developing the engine, the goal was to build a no-compromise racing motor that is also lightweight, but still easy to handle, even for hobby riders, with a linear power delivery. The engine produces just over 63 brake horsepower at peak output and delivers a little more than 53 Newton meters of torque. And with a dry weight of under 27 kilograms. It is also impressively light. A 5-speed gearbox, a clutch with 8 friction plates, and a Brembo clutch lever setup are all built into the engine. In MotoGP and the Superbike World Championship, Ducati has collected vast amounts of data and experience over recent years and decades, particularly when it comes to electronic rider aids. And that is another area where you can really sense the engineer's pride, bringing all those electronic systems into the motocross bike. From the handlebars, you can control traction control, a quickshifter mode, 2 riding modes, and launch control. Basically, a start assist. And with the optional Wi-Fi module, you can access even more settings through Ducati's Crosslink app. Ducati is especially proud of the development of its traction control. While this is something you might know from other manufacturers, Ducati claims to offer the first true traction control, one that actually measures rear wheel slip and adjusts accordingly. Many others, they say, only control it via ignition timing. I'm really curious to see how that actually rides later on. They also gave plenty of thought to the chassis and suspension. When designing the frame, they aimed to create a symmetrical vehicle. They wanted the shock absorber placed exactly in the center, not slightly offset, as is often the case with other brands. They also wanted a straight intake and exhaust flow from the engine to ensure optimal performance. That is why they opted for a perimeter frame and chose aluminium as the material, as a steel frame in that design would simply be too heavy. For the bodywork too, they aimed for a slim and clean line to give the rider good contact points, with no sharp edges or awkward transitions. Naturally, they also rely on high-quality components. The brakes are from Brembo, including the levers, front and rear brakes, and the calipers. Galfa brake discs, Pirelli MX32. Midsoft tires, excellent tires for a wide range of conditions. XL rims, and plenty more come fitted on the bike. Ducati also paid attention to the finer details during development. For example, the frame protectors not only offer extra grip, but are also integrated into the frame itself to provide the smoothest possible surface. You can change the air filter without needing any tools. The fuel tank holds 7.2 liters, which is more than enough for sand races. And with a wet weight of just over 104 kilograms, meaning all fluids except petrol, the bike is impressively light. For anyone already itching to get their hands on one, there is good news. There are specialized Ducati off-road dealers. These dealers must apply specifically to be allowed to sell motocross models and the related accessories. You can find them on Ducati's website under the dealers section by selecting off-road. In Austria, there are 4 dealers. In Germany, 21. The buying experience is also intended to be something quite special. The dealers are expected to set the bikes up perfectly for each customer, including adjusting the controls and the suspension settings. So it is not a case of walking into a shop, loading the bike into a van, and being left to figure everything out on your own. They will guide you through the entire process. It all sounds pretty great, but also quite expensive, considering all that service and premium feel. The list price in Germany is €12,490, which actually makes it cheaper than in Italy. In Austria, it will be a bit more expensive. You can find the exact price in our review article on the Ducati. And yes, that means the bike is definitely not the cheapest on the market. Quite the opposite. It is one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive. I will need to double check that. You will find the exact comparison in the article. In the end, it is up to each person to decide whether it is worth spending that kind of money, and whether it is worth it. I will tell you after the riding impression. Several hours later, a glorious day of riding on a truly fantastic and fast track, one that has even hosted Grand Prix events in the past. And I have to say, I am genuinely impressed by the Ducati. First off, the engineers really pulled off something special from a blank sheet of paper. The bike feels very well balanced. You can move around on it easily, and the engine is genuinely powerful. It is easy to handle and does not overwhelm or underwhelm the rider. What I am really enthusiastic about are the electronic rider aids. For the first time, I actually feel like they are truly helpful. They do not override me as a rider, and they just work. I would even go so far as to say they are idiot-proof. Normally, if you're a quick rider, you want to control everything yourself. With some manufacturers, you might get a little assistance from electronics here and there. But with this bike, it already starts with the launch control. I did a start against Tony Cairoli, and you can simply go full throttle, let the clutch out, and the bike does not lift. The engine found its own optimal revs before launch. I have never seen anything like it. I shot forward, even though I do not really do motocross starts anymore. I was standing on a metal grid and even had it in first gear, although Tony Cairoli had recommended second. That would normally guarantee a proper wheelie. But I just blasted forward. The traction control also works flawlessly, no matter the setting. It does exactly what you would hope for. You just twist the throttle, and the bike does the thinking for you. It worked both in level 4 and 3, but also in level 1. As a very fast rider, I chose level 1 so I could provoke the rear to step out a bit more during drifts. But it really is idiot-proof. The quickshifter function worked brilliantly. You can just bang through the gears under full load. All of this made for a very relaxed and fatigue-free riding experience. The only reason I occasionally kept a finger on the clutch was to make sure I did not stall the bike. I no longer need the clutch for acceleration, and I do not need it for shifting either. That allows me to stand on the bike in a much more relaxed way, and that made everything easier. But you can still fine-tune that a bit using the compression settings. And for a hobby rider, there is more than enough in reserve and plenty of comfort. Even on big jumps, if you overshot or came up short, the bike did not bottom out harshly. You'd feel it at the end of the stroke, but it still worked well. I would say, welcome to the motocross market, Ducati. I think they really mean what they say. We sell what we race. With that extensive accessory program, you can genuinely build yourself a bike that is good enough to compete at the very top of international racing. And I am already looking forward to the next models. If you have any questions about the bike or the video, just pop them in the comments. And we will see each other again soon. And remember, Ducati is cool. Bye.